some of the problems that women can have with menstruation, with fibroids, with over cramping, emotional issues, which we'll touch on in a minute, all are related to the liver and the liver's ability to break those hormones down and excrete them to transform them into a form that's not harmful for the body and then eliminate it from the system. And I mentioned before, iron overload. Iron overload is a big, big problem these days. A lot of people may show in their blood work, for example, that they're low in iron. And what is the general thing that that will be recommended? Just take more iron. Take a pill with iron in it. In many cases, although someone may temporarily feel better, what happens is over time, the iron creates a tremendous amount of oxidation, toxicity. The liver stores it. We also hear a lot about fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease used to be called alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now we have a whole category, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And in a very simple way, the liver is very intelligent. So the liver is trying to break down toxins. But what happens is that if the liver can't keep up with its ability to excrete toxins, it will store things in the liver. It's sort of thinking, at some point when I'm not overburdened, then I'm going to excrete these toxins. But if that time never comes because we're being exposed constantly, and maybe we're eating a very poor diet, many people are eating lots of junk food, they're drinking too much alcohol, they're eating way too much sugar, especially corn syrup, and of course, genetically modified foods and heavy metals and chemicals and pesticides and herbicides, the liver becomes burdened. So the liver is intelligent. It will conceal those products in the tissues in a compartment of the liver, and then eventually it will seal it off with fat. And then the liver becomes fatty. And in doing that, for a little while, it's not a problem. But if that fat becomes more so and more so, then it starts taking away from the liver's ability to actually function properly. So one of the things, again, that I mentioned before is the importance of bile. Many people sort of think, well, what is bile? Why is it so important? The liver has these little ducts that go into the gallbladder that release bile, and it drips it down into the gallbladder. And what the gallbladder does, it's a little sac. And when we eat fat, especially, it will secrete that bile into the small intestine. And when the fat is released from the stomach into the small intestine, then that bile breaks down, it emulsifies the fat so that the body can then utilize that fat as a nutrient. Now, a lot of times people are eating a lot of junky fat, hydrogenated fats, a lot of the plant oils, which are very, very difficult to break down and utilize, highly, highly oxidative. They've been overheated, overtreated, overpurified, overfiltered. And now we have fat that now the liver and the gallbladder have to work that much harder to use and to break down. So sometimes the gallbladder becomes congested, or the bile ducts become congested. And now we have a liver that's stagnant. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So another thing that I wanted to touch on, which I find really fascinating, is from the perspective of Chinese medicine, which is something that I practice, and Ayurveda, which is a system of medicine from India. The liver is looked at from many different angles. And from a Chinese medicine perspective and an Ayurvedic perspective, every organ has physical, mental, and emotional correspondences. And in Chinese medicine and in Ayurveda, it's even said, and on a spirit level correspondence. And I'll explain that. So what that means is that every organ has an emotional correspondence to it. So every organ holds different types of emotions. For example, the lungs are said to hold grief. The kidneys are said to hold fear. The stomach is said to hold worry. And what does the liver do? The liver holds there's always a positive and a negative. The negative side is that it holds anger and frustration. So when someone's liver becomes more toxic, guess what happens? We tend to become more frustrated We tend to become more easily irritated. We tend to become stagnant in our emotions. The liver is also described to be that organ which circulates the qi in a smooth way. And what the heck does that mean? What it means that we have energy that flows through the body. This is what we're doing when we're practicing acupuncture. We are trying to move the bioelectric energy around the body in very intelligent ways. The body is perfectly designed by the divine. It's an amazing, intelligent organism. But when we interfere with the natural intelligence of the body, things become stagnant. And in Chinese medicine and in Ayurveda, there's something called stagnant liver qi. And all that means is that a liver that has become overburdened. Now, again, from these systems, we can look at the toxin of anger, the toxin of frustration, the toxin of over emotional stress can actually impact the liver itself in a negative way. So it's definitely seen as a toxin. So we have to look at it like toxins can make us more irritable, and irritability or anger or frustration can make us more toxic. So that's why it's always good to work on our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, because by doing that, we can support the liver in the best way possible. The liver also has the property and the ability of what its main function is. It's also creativity, the emotion or feeling of hopefulness and excitement. There's a word in Chinese that is called the hun. The hun is stored in the liver. What does that mean? The hun is that part of us that has excitement, as a feeling of hopefulness, the interest in life, the desire to experience life, the desire to learn more, the desire to be the best that we can be. It's like when you're a little kid and you're excited for life. That's what the liver holds. So emotionally and spiritually, we can see how incredibly important the liver is. Without that, without a healthy, happy liver, it's very difficult to function well in this world. We lose our vitality, we lose our creativity, we lose our hopefulness. Oftentimes, from a Chinese medicine perspective, a stagnant liver qi causes depression. Because what is, oftentimes, sometimes depression is really, it's like our hopes and dreams are being suppressed, or we're not able to move forward in life. Another property of the liver, another quality, we call it a correspondence of the liver, is the capacity to plan. It means the vision for life. What is our vision? And that could be in a given day. It can be our vision for life. What do we want out of our life? And our capacity to be clear, to have the vision about what steps we need to take in order to make those things happen. So this is the liver. The liver is so important. Many, many creative people have very interesting livers. Now, there's even a time of day that corresponds with the liver, and that's between 1 and 3 in the morning. And I had a student once when I was teaching her this, and it was in a class. And when we said that, we heard a gasp. She worked in a liver ward at a hospital, and she said, "That's crazy. At 3 in the morning, or anytime between 2 and 3 in the morning, is when most of the liver emergencies happen, because that's the time of day." And in Chinese medicine, it's called the biological clock. We understand that different organs are empowered at that time. So if an organ is sick, it will manifest those symptoms more so at that time. Also, many creative people we know that tend to stay up late. We think of artists and poets and music and songwriters. They tend to like to stay up late in the wee hours of the evening and going into the morning, because there's a lot of creative energy at that time. I don't recommend it. The liver is really meant, what is supposed to happen at night is to use in one sense, our creative energy